And Amber Dean will make comments. Hey.
We are submitting an application to the LWCF, Land Water Conservation Fund, for our Walter Johnson Park. This grant will rehabilitate our stadium, do arena lighting, fitness equipment, park playground, sidewalk, horseshoe pits, and not horseshoe pits, cornhole. Cornhole, we have horseshoe pits. Cornhole, and some stadium seating around the cornhole as well. It is a dollar for dollar match, so the grant total project is $609,000. Our match will be $304,500. That match is coming from economic development funds and park recreation funds. And this is just the application to submit. It does not mean we have been awarded it. It's just we're trying to see if we can get it. If you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
I do have a few questions.
Okay.
We've all been out to the fair at some point, most of us, and been in the stands. And what were the engineers' initial estimates and opinion on rehabilitating the concrete of the stadium?
So the structural, like to repair just the stadium alone, is $115,000. In your packet, you probably saw that big number of $854,000. That included repairs to the bathroom to make them ADA. That included repairs to some of the garage doors, HVAC. That was like a complete overhaul of the stadium. We're looking at just repairing the cracks and making it more stable for the $115,000.
Yeah, looking at the cracks where chunks are out, would they cut it out and then anchor it and form new concrete in certain places, or
Ultimately, that's just the engineer's, estimate of what they would do. This isn't a contractor that
Okay.
would come in and propose that. So we are getting an increase in insurance claims as people are out there. So we're just trying to hit some of those major areas. But yeah, we'd have to have a contractor bid if we got that award and talk about options there. I'm not exactly sure what those would be yet.
So if you said it's a dollar for dollar match, but what's presented in here is the maximum, or if it were more, let's say the project increased to 700,000, would we get 350 and pay 350, or is this the limit?
No, there's no limit. We can ask for the stars. We just have to dollar for dollar match that.
Okay.
So we didn't have more dollars to put towards that to keep going, because we could absolutely keep going on that out there. The part of the combination here is, since we're already going to be putting money into the park portion, we're using that as part of that match. That's happening with the sales tax anyways, the park sales tax and the upgrades to that park. So it was a good time to combine those, since it's same location and we're already spending some of that money.
So I thought that might be the answer. So my next question is, whoever is giving this grant, can we do some this year, some next year, and still kind of be within the grant, or is it only in a certain calendar year?
So they give us 2 years to complete the project. So we'll have 2 calendar years to complete the project.
You're asking if we don't have to spend as much now by spreading it out? Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm saying spend that much now out of our funds, but say next year we identify 200,000 more of repairs that could be done there to make it better, and then we would do 100 and then 100. Does the grant remain open?
Oh, no. So once we submit for, we have to write out, this is what we're asking for. Now we can always do like a phase 2. So say we do this portion of the project and we find more damage, or we can go back and submit a phase 2 and go, while we were completing this project, we actually need more money. So here's a second application.
Once it's complete, we could come back and apply for more grants through them for other things. in the
Other
park,
things
right?
as well. Yes.
This is
It's the same one that we've gotten for the golf course, for the driving range.
the Wildlife and Parks Division of the state, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, for example, the ballparks up in Independence, the baseball parks,
Yeah.
that was largely funded by this one to the tune of several $million. So there is opportunity within that to both keep applying and to go bigger.
And I assume if the project is done very well from our standpoint, contract standpoint, they're more apt to fund a
Yes.
little more.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Amber, as you probably know, if you don't now, you will soon. I'm a big proponent for ADA compliance. And I did notice in their report from, is it A&G or B&G Consultants, that a lot of the items were not compliant with Americans with Disabilities Act, to include the concessions, the ticket window, things like that. Is there recommendation to wall them off and continue wall them off, or to make them to where they are disability accessible?
So in that PER that you have, it gave out a quote to make things ADA accessible. Just for this grant application, we were looking at just.
I saw
structural-
sidewalks and handrails and walkways. I did not see anything in reference to the concessions and or ticket.
Okay. In
I
the
thought it was in the bathrooms.
The bathrooms as well.
yeah.
But
So
it showed in one of the photos that the ticket was just walled off because it was not ADA. It was just boarded up.
the ticket
The
booth.
ticket booth.
Okay.
And that's according to their language in the documents I read.
I don't think it's walled up because it's not ADA. I think in the stadium, they have it blocked off to where only the fairground can access the ticket booth. Not everybody has access into that. So in order to get to the ticket booth, you go to the front of the stadium, and that's where it's at.
And the concessions would be ADA compliant.
If we opted to spend that money, it would be an increase in cost outside that $115,000.
Thank you.
So that most of the ADA that you're seeing in there is not part of the proposal. That's in the 800,000 part. We got the sidewalk, so that the outside of that, you'd have some ADA compliance there. But a lot of the ADA stuff is in the bigger proposal, not in
That would be a
smaller one.
phase 2, as we just spoke about.
Could be, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, if there are no other questions, I will move to approve items 1 and 2 of the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Vice Mayor Maples, seconded by Commissioner Golden to approve items 1 and 2 of the consent agenda as presented. Vice Mayor Maples.
Aye.
Commissioner Golden.
Aye.
Commissioner Kendall.
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, now we will have comments from the public. Any citizen desiring to address the commission shall be recognized, advance to the podium, state his or her name and address for the record. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes unless extended by a vote of the majority of the commission. The commission does not hear matters involving litigation or city personnel. The commission does not take action on subjects not on the agenda unless unusual or hardship conditions exist. Citizens may address the commission on agenda items as they are brought to the floor. Do we have any public comments? Okay. We will move on. No special hearings. Old business. Second reading of ordinance G-26-08, an ordinance amending Chapter 30, Article 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Coffeyville, Kansas, to establish certain fishing rules for LeClaire Lake. And if there's no comments, I will move to approve the second reading of ordinance G-26-08 as presented.
I have one small question in reference to Section B, when it speaks about the different modes of fishing that are not allowed. One, I did not understand, bank lines. Is that a tied off from the bank like to a tree stump, or is that somebody standing on a bank with a fishing pole?
Where are you at?
Ordinance G-26-08, Section 3024, subsection B, about halfway through, second line down, where it says, the following methods of fishing within the boundaries of LeClaire Lake shall be prohibited: trot lines, limb lines, bank lines.
I think it's staked to the bank. I'm not sure, but I think it's when you stake a line to
I
the
also
ground
think
and it
that,
just
but by
hangs up.
thinking, that leaves interpretation.
Because you
So
just walk away from it and come back in an
I would
hour.
like clarification for specifics, because I do have a lot of constituents that do like to fish there, and they want to make sure they're doing it correctly.
Yes, that's not in reference to a human being with a fishing pole.
So in essence, we're fine with manned fishing poles, not walk away fishing poles.
Right.
Thank you.
I have a question on that. In that ordinance that we're talking about with the fishing rules, in there, did I miss it, or is something different what I'm gonna bring up? Is the fishing at the Hillcrest Golf Course pond, not allowed no more? And if it's not, why?
Yeah, that is separate from this. We've had several altercations between golfers and people that want to be out there fishing, and so either don't let the golfers come in or don't let the fishers come in. So we had to make some rules, including, police getting involved because of altercations. So,
Man, that's bad, because I remember fishing there when I moved here in so many years. Me, my daughter, so many. That's sad to hear.
yeah, it is sad. Sad that people can't seem to get along. So we had to create rules and boundaries, because we put a lot of money into that golf course, taxpayer money, to keep it up and going, and the altercations are such that it's causing more and more problems.
Thank you.
All right, I move to approve the second reading of ordinance G-26-08 as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Vice Mayor Maples, seconded by Commissioner Golden to approve the second reading of ordinance G-26-08 as presented. Commissioner Golden.
Aye.
Commissioner Kendall.
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Maples.
Aye. All right, moving on to new business. Resolution R-26-79, a resolution of intent to adopt a second amendment to the Neighborhood Revitalization Plan and set a public hearing on the proposal. Director of Community Development, Amber Dean, will lead the discussion.
Hello again.
Hello.
So we are proposing a second amendment to our NRP plan. Some regulations recently changed in the past year to where you can encompass the entire city, like a blanket zone for the NRP. Before you had to have like designated areas, you couldn't do your whole town. Now you can do your whole town. So we are proposing to do a blanketed coverage. For the first 5 years, 100% tax rebate. Second 5 years, 50% tax rebate. It excludes the floodplain, so if they're in a floodplain, they cannot qualify for this program. It does include residential and commercial properties. So if it's a new build or they're doing a significant upgrade to their property, they can apply for a tax rebate. And then we're extending it it's set to expire in 30/30. We want to extend it to 30/35. So tonight, we're just going to set a
30.
public hearing, reach out to our other taxing entities to get them to sign a interlocal agreement, and then move from there.
Did I hear that right? Did you say 30, 35?
Yes, we want it.
2035.
We want it to, 2035. We want to extend it another
1,000
100 years.
years.
It'll be fine.
1,010 years is
Yeah,
a long
right?
time. But
So this was, I think we brought this up just as a discussion item maybe a year ago.
It was about a year ago.
Independence moved forward on this before the state statutes changed. They decided just to go ahead and do it. So what's changed now for us is the state statute, and that's why it's
Yeah.
before you is that option, whereas before it wasn't.
So if I read this right, the application submittal, it would expire 2035. We might renew it 5 years from now to extend further, but as of right now today, if you submitted your, say on a new house, by December 31st, 2035, then you would have that 10
10 years
start the
past
clock.
that, yeah.
10 years, that would start the clock on the 10-year rebate.
Yes, we just would not be able to accept applications after that
Okay.
2035 date.
Are those transferable after sale in that time frame?
It depends on if it's a developer. So if they built a house and they want to transfer it to the new owners, yes. But if you build a house and you live in it 5 years and then sell it, no.
Can you explain what a tax rebate is to me?
So it's a rebate on your property taxes. You pay your taxes, and then after your taxes are paid, you get roughly 99% of it back. It's a rebate. You get it. They send you a check. The county sends you a check for it.
So he brings up a good point that most people, when they buy a house, you're doing it through a bank, and so you have escrow. So how are they paying the bank back, or how does that
You know,
work?
I don't know how that works. That's a great question. I would assume that it would be mailed back to the property owner, but I can't give an honest answer on that.
And then you would continue to pay the escrow to the bank, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is an incentive for especially new construction, where you're getting years of your property tax off. So there's pros and cons to this. You being the commission, it's a benefit to attract people in. That's why Independence has been doing it about a year now. And this isn't new for us. We have it currently, but we just have certain areas that City Commission. I don't remember how long ago, Amber. Do you know where we identified the current boundaries?
5 years ago, I think, maybe a little over.
An amendment in 23.
Yeah.
I think was our last amendment.
So Commission had just picked select areas. So this is already something in play. If there's development in those areas, would be extending it across everywhere except for downtown and.
Downtown's gonna stay. But it's remaining the 100% all 10 years. That didn't change.
Yeah.
And then flood zones, if you're in a flood zone, you wouldn't qualify. But outside of that, everywhere else in town.
And the downtown one isn't just, or is it new construction from the ground?
It's not new construction from the ground. It's if you do any type of work, if your property value increases by improvements, rehabilitation, or even a new build. So it's a tax rebate on that increase. If you're doing
Improvement, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Amber, in the short time I've lived here, I've seen several businesses come and go in the historical downtown area. People that come in and they want to make the latest, greatest, and it may not work out for whatever reasons. They were eligible for that 10-year, if I understand the documents correctly.
Yes.
Then there is a transfer of sale, does that start over at the 10 years? Do the new owners or landlords or whomever
They would
get
have
the
to-
difference of?
They would have to reapply, and then
Would the
if-
10 years start from their
it would
application?
start from their application, but they would have to do work to increase the value of that property.
So the previous would be null.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because they've sold the property.
Right.
So if I do work to my house, I can get a rebate check?
You would have to apply through the NRP, and then we send it to the county and they approve it.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, I will move to approve Resolution R-26-79 as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Vice Mayor Maples, seconded by Commissioner Golden to approve Resolution R-26-79 as presented. Vice Mayor Maples.
Aye.
Commissioner Golden.
Aye.
Commissioner Kendall.
Aye,
Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dean.
All right, we will now have our city manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am getting some messages that perhaps video online wasn't working. I went back and checked, and we show it up and working. So I haven't got a message since if that's updated. So if anybody at home wants to text a commissioner, let us know if the video's working now. But it does sound like perhaps that was not live. Few things to go over. Some of this is updates, just information. First thing I wanted to just show you here, you've got these flyers. I believe you have them up there of our grand opening of the Rails to Trails pathway happening here on the 29th at 11 a.m. This is a long time coming. People have been using this for a while, but we continue to have that project try to wrap up with the ballards that went in place. So that's done. We're looking forward to go out and having this grand opening. Would love any commissioner, member of the public to attend.
Ben, I just got notification that video is up and working currently.
Okay, excellent. Kudos to Amberdean and Community Development Department. They do a lot of hard work on this. This is something that I think this is our third, maybe our fourth, something similar to this. So been doing a lot of this, trying to bring the community out to the things that are getting accomplished here and recognize those that support it, those who vote for it, where the funding comes from, the community for supporting it. So looking forward to having that here in a few weeks. Fireworks, we had a video going out there about someone that had lit fireworks off from our tennis courts. It turned out to be a young man. There was a police report filed, identified who it was. That young man and his mother came to visit with me and apologized for that. And we've worked out an arrangement to, this young man will be doing some community service for us. Not significant amount of damage. We did have the contractor that built that come out and take a look. There is some paint damage. The concern there is just water and the elements getting underneath that and continuing that. And so we have identified what the costs are there and what it's going to take, and we'll go get a patch on there here relatively soon. There's a lot of interest lately in what was called the flock cameras. You've seen that? We actually had someone run over one of our cameras out by Walmart. Those cameras are cameras, and so if you run them over either on purpose or accidentally, whatever it may have been, you are on camera. So we've identified that accident, and we're getting that taken care of. If new commissioners want more information on that, this was something that was passed in 2023. At the time, it had all 5 commissioners voted to approve that. I believe it was February 2023. If you start looking in U.S. case law, there's been consistently upheld the use of ALPRs. And so this is not necessarily anything new. This has gone up to the highest levels of government. We are following both our policy manuals for appropriate use and management of those. Looked into those policies. So there is a lot of sentiment out there on whether or not these should be or should not be used. But I did want to say that this has been going on here, not just in Coffeyville, Montgomery County, surrounding counties, but in Coffeyville since 2023. And we are following all the appropriate laws and policies to manage and maintain that. If any commissioner would like to come in and learn more about that or have conversations, we'd be happy to have those. I know that each of you, we've been struggling to get your work emails up and going, so hopefully those are working. I sent an email with a link to register, and if not, we can get you those links other ways. But I sent a link to register for a community workshop. I've been telling you about this for several months now, but the school district is hosting this workshop through KU. The college, the city, the chamber, the hospital, those major entities in town are supporting that. We've put out surveys. Last checked, we had around 600 responses from the community. This workshop by invite only is going out to members of each of those community groups to come and kind of dissect that data and review it together. So this is happening on I believe it's the 27th, which is a Monday. There's a lot going on that week for commission, but if you haven't seen that registration yet and you want to go, let me know. We'll make sure to get you onto it. If you're not able to attend, that's fine as well. Also, on top of inviting the 5 commissioners, we invited a member from each of our city boards, and then 2 staff members. And so we'll have about 12 people represented from the city. Again, each of those organizations have someone as well. So that was sent out on email. If you haven't seen that, you can send it to a personal email to register so we know how many people are coming to that. I had some questions about our water plant. Of course, this came up at our last meeting where we talked about going out and doing the electrical, and engineers are working forward on that. We did have the engineers go out and give us what I'm going to call the clean bill of health on the structure of the water plant. So essentially what that means is the concrete, the structures there can last this 20 to 25 years of what we're looking for before we need to replace. We were worried that perhaps that would come back and they'd say, you have a bigger problem. So we've got that sort of clean bill of health. That's not the components inside that really make it work. That's just structures, that concrete. That's not exactly the case for our pump house. There are some concerns about that. We've had engineer studies done on that for about a year and a half, and we're waiting to move forward based on the funds that we'll receive to help the water plant. I expect by next meeting, we will come to talk about a bond. We talked about a $9 million bond to be paid for out of the rates to take care of these things at the water plant, the lead lines, our service lines. So that is coming here probably, I believe, Marty, that should be ready next meeting, correct? Yeah. So we'll have that at the next meeting, those conversations on that bond and those implications. There were 9 core areas as they went out there to research: pump house, filter house, North Clear Basin, North Sediment Basin, South Sediment Basin, South Clear Basin, the North Final Basin, South Final Basin, and our clear well, just as some of those examples. And the filter bed was not done as part of that. The rest, again, is the structures that this study is, and again, clean bill of health there. That was something we were really worried about, so we're happy with that report. And Jim went over some of this at our last meeting, I know, but because we're having that bond issue come up, wanted to re-say that. Quickly go over some dates. So 27th, there's this community workshop, which is sort of an all-day thing, if you're able to attend that. Then on the 28th, we have a commission meeting. On the 29th will be our first budget work session. Planning to do that here at 5:30 on the 29th. We can talk about that a little bit more if we need to in our work session directly after this meeting. Then on the 31st, which is the Friday, the Verdigris River Drainage District will be coming down here to host their meeting in this room. That will be for their revenue neutral rate and budget discussion. Again, that only applies to those in the Verdigris River Drainage District. There's something like 50 odd homes in that. They're putting that out through public notice. We're going to do a mailer to those group of people and let them know as well that it's here and they can come talk. Essentially, there's been no mill levied in that taxing district for a number of years, and now that we have a board, they have to come together and decide what they're going to tax. Since '93, they've only been taxed at $5,000. That's what's come to the city. So this is just part of that process. You will see those notices coming out here in the next week. In case you're interested by that, that meeting should be the 21st at 6 p.m. here. Finally, one of the big items that we've had a lot of conversations on in the last 2 weeks. Of course, I've met with commissioners, met with a lot of members of the public. I think in 2 weeks, I'm easily approaching over 24 conversations about data centers. So I have a video that should be going out tomorrow on our Facebook page for people to hear a little bit more information. A lot of it is repetition from what I mentioned in our meeting before, but I wanted to again go over the timeline and when decisions will be made and what those are. So we have told several data centers that we will accept proposals by the end of July to take that to commission. First or second week of August, still trying to finalize a location that's bigger than here. We'll have a public information session for people to come in and talk to me and some of our departments about implications of data centers, from everything from we're public power to people's concerns to what we're seeing. I expect that in August, either the first or second meeting of August, we will come with these proposals to commission. And the decision that we will be asking is not whether or not to build one or to allow one. It's whether or not to allow one of them to do a study. This is the SPP study. They'd have to pay $120,000. We would send that referral into GRDA, and they would do that SPP study. I'm told those take about 90 days. What that study will produce is the availability of power on the transmission lines, not just here locally, but down into Oklahoma. We believe we have 40 megawatts available. That's been essentially sitting here at the city for 15 or 20 years from large employers that have left. And so that study will come back and tell us if it's available, and if not, what we would have to do to make it available. depending on that result, that data center may decide they want to stay here and pursue building. And then we move into essentially contract negotiations again if commission and the public felt this was something that was good for us. And so at that time, we would talk about how much they would be charged for electric and for water and how much they're going to use and if there's a land purchase or there's rezoning. And so that could take several more months at that point. So no true decisions made here going into the 120-day, 150, 180-day period. A lot of people are really concerned that we've made decisions. That has not happened. We have not signed any NDAs. We have not brought that to commission to sign. So this is purely information session for our public and the decision to allow a data center to do a transmission line study, which really is in our benefit anyways, because if a manufacturer came and also wanted a lot of power, you'd have that data from those studies. So I anticipate that should be an easy yes for us, especially since someone else will pay for it. It's once that comes back, so we're talking about 120 days, then we start having decisions to be made on, do we want it here? The implications are positive or negative. Those decisions will be made at that time.
Couple questions real quick on that. I was unable to attend the meeting this morning in Montgomery County. I believe you were in attendance today. And
Yesterday.
yesterday,
Yep.
pardon me. And they mentioned in their minutes talking about a moratorium on data centers. How, if at all, does that affect the possibility of this moving forward?
They would not be able to do that in the incorporated areas, so city property. That would just be for the unincorporated areas. That could affect us regardless. The Coffeyville Industrial Park is not all within the city limits. So we have some data centers that want to go look at unused or barely used buildings out there. We have the Southwire building, we've got the Amazon building. That's all up to them on conversations with the owners of those buildings if that would even be acceptable use. But I know that some of them are looking at that and calling to inquire about those buildings. So if the county put a moratorium, those buildings are in the county, that would put a moratorium on those. As far as the certified sites that we have, that's the work we've done through Montgomery County Action Council. We have certified sites all through the county, which essentially are advertised at the Department of Commerce level at the state saying, hey, manufacturers that are coming to the state, here are our options. They have all the different counties, all the different certified sites. Those, we have 2 of those. Those are in city limits, and so that would not be affected by a county moratorium.
And part 2 on that question is you made mention earlier in what you were talking about the study and the cost. I believe you mentioned $120,000. And I wanted to reiterate that that is not the city's cost. That is the developer's cost, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
With that, Commissioners, the only other thing is we do have a quick work session directly after this meeting. I think I was able to notify everybody, but Commissioner Kendall, apologize, I wasn't able to get a hold of you. That is really about some education for especially the 2 of you on what revenue neutral rate is. There was a big stink up at the county here on Monday on what was going on with that. So directly after this, we'll have it should be really short unless you have a lot of questions, just a work session. We won't need a decision out of that per how the city operates, but we are looking for a consensus as we have to go submit some forms to the county here in the coming weeks. So that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, now any comments from commissioners or staff?
I have a couple things. I'll start with the high grass around town. I know it's been brought up, and I know we've talked about it here, and me and you talked about it several times. We need, maybe if we're short on the funding to keep the town looking better, then maybe we need to think about reallocating funds, just as we did today for the Walter Johnson Park. Because it's bad. I drove around over the last couple weeks. You got 2 and 3 block stretches on 2nd Street. It's just all over town. Some of it's 2 and 3, 4 feet high. That's hard on the contractor's equipment, and, you know, cutting grass, you don't know what's in there. That's safety, it's all kinds of things. So maybe we need to look into that. And I know that you said it's a collective seal, so however we got to do it.
Yeah. I was talking to Amber today, and I think, how many contracts to mow did you put out today, or was it this week? So there are 40 out right now to mow, so it's not something that we're not doing those. The approach is attempting to get people who own that property to do it themselves. When we talk about funds, we're going to be having our budget meetings. That's one of the big things that we're going to be talking about, not just lots that are owned by others in the city, but all the lots that we have to mow and the cost it takes to both upkeep mowers, have mowers coming in, and the staff to do that. So yeah, that's a big thing we need to talk about. When it comes to the public's property, it's their property, it's their responsibility. Some of the things we're doing, we are shifting our penalties away from property tax, because people just don't pay that anyways. We're moving into both, we have options for collections and options for the state tax. What's that called? It's called Kansas Set-Off, where you actually submit that to them and they take that out of people's taxes at the end of the year. Because what we turn into is a mowing service at the expense of residents. So how we pay for those grass mowings is the refuse fund. So that's everybody's trash can service. We're charged a certain amount. The commission charges a little bit more to residents, and we take that money, which is around $600,000 a year, Amber or Marty? Does that sound right? It's around $600,000 a year that comes in. So how we're setting off with, for example, Walter Johnson Park, is we are using sales tax for a park that is there, matched with economic development money, and matching that. So a little bit more difficult, but I think we'll absolutely have all of this on our budget meetings. To how do we figure this out? Ultimately, there's a huge part of personal responsibility here, and people aren't doing that. And so commission gets to decide if that's something that should fully be on the city, and we need to talk about that, because yeah, we don't have the funds to attack that like we have in the past. And in the past, we've been going over those budgets. So we're trying very hard to keep within the set budgets that commission makes year to year. But the 29th will be that first meeting, and we'll be able to talk a lot about these things for sure.
And then on that, the touch base, you said you go knock and talk, and then it's the property owner, which it should be. But at what point do we put, all right, 3 feet, we're done knocking and talking, we're done waiting, we got to send the contractors out?
Yeah.
Because it's horrible. We talk about building the city back, making it look better, bringing people in, businesses in. That's not going to help.
Yeah. So although I can't disagree with you on that what we're following today is what sort of standard practice within code enforcement is. We're following the state recommended code enforcement association. For example, the city of Wichita, when I visited with them, they set a budget of $50,000 every year. And when I got here in 24, we were spending $50,000 plus ourselves. So I can't disagree with you on how it looks and what commission wants. We absolutely go do that. Just comes down to, the dollars and where you want to allocate it, and if you want to find more revenues or not.
So let me ask you, the lawns that are not mowed, are they occupied, unoccupied, local owner, absentee owner? Do we have a...
It's all of the above, for sure. The city land bank has, I think, like 64 lots in it. So we're out mowing those on top of just the general areas.
I didn't know if there was a leaning towards, I don't know if there's any data that says we've got more absentee owners with bad lots than we do local owners with bad lots.
Part of what we're doing this year is trying to really collect that data.
Okay.
We haven't had I'm going to call it a performance metric to judge what we do. The metric has been, how much money do we spend on cutting that? And so part of this changing is, how many people have we got to do it on their own before we do have to show up? So when you talk about 3 feet, we've got, besides just knocking and talking, we've got door hangers. And there's a green, it's getting too high. There's a yellow, there's a red. There's also, people's complaints where essentially we're going to go out and just talk and then go to that. So some of these is due to the rain, some is the speed to be able to get out to them. like I said, we got 40 just today. I think I sent that email with the data on how many people already, and that was probably that's probably 2 months old now, and so I can go re-up that data, but how many people did mow on their own? We've got those metrics. How many complaints we received, how many that we just went out and took care of, and the money that's been put on. We have put a lot of money already into mowing. We're trying to go less than the 50,000, but even with these 40, we're going to get to there very quick. So it's not that we're ignoring it. It is being addressed, but it is within a process so we can get that data and understand what we're trying to deal with. On the opposite end of this, commission for my first year, we were looking at the other side of the extreme. People were so upset in town that we were so on top of grass. People are getting letters when it's just an inch above what the ordinance said. So we were trying to deal with it on that side. So I think we're dealing with this pendulum, and we're trying to find what that middle ground is. Our employees live here. They don't like looking at that either, and this has been hard for them to swallow, to take that to the other side. So there's a balance we're trying to find, and this is that first year we're doing that. And it's a year with a lot of rain, so you're right, everything is growing all around it. So we want to find what's appropriate so that commission, our residents are happy with the community they live in. Comes down to, again, that cost and what do we want to spend on this.
you're trying to find a way to recover the cost, a different way to recover some of those costs.
Yes.
But you have to collect the
yeah.
data to do that.
Yeah, but I reiterate what Commissioner Kendall said. I've driven around the last month and seen some properties in 3 or 4 feet tall, and it's just egregious. If it's 8 inches, 9 inches tall, they'll get to it mow, but 3, 4 feet almost looks like corn growing. I mean,
Yeah, but I just wonder how
that's-
many of those are vacant
that's
homes
past
and how
our
many of those
limit.
are
Yeah,
occupied, and aren't people walking through it?
door hangers only work if somebody's there.
Yeah, same with talking.
An abandoned property doesn't do any good.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And then you're right. There's some empty lots owned by other people, and they're just not mowing it. It's 3, 4 feet tall, and
That happens with our tax sales every couple of years. You get a whole bunch of owners that come in and don't realize what the property tax is going to be. That you have to take care of it, and they bought it and they were from out of town anyways, and we're still.
if you
not
levy it
talking
against the
about
property tax and they're not paying it, then
Yeah.
we're
Then
stuck.
there's
So
no point in-
finding another way,
The
like
other
you're
way is
saying,
to go after the individual.
I think will
not the
change
law.
behavior.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I just want to let you guys know that on these vacant lots, my team's going the extra mile. If they're local and they live in Coffeyville, they're reaching out via phone, email, they're going to where their residence is to try and get them to mow their vacant lots. If they're out of town and we know that we're not going to be able to make contact, the door hanger won't do any purpose, we automatically send a letter. We just skip the door hanger process and go straight to the letter to start the whole process of mowing.
And we know you're doing the best you can. We understand. It's just
Yeah. Well,
trying to find a solution.
It's been several weeks. We'll go update that. I'll get that data from Amber and send it back out so you can see the work that is being done. So.
Well, something on this, Commissioner Kendall. When you mow a yard that's an inch over the regulation, like a foot tall, that's one thing. 3 feet tall, that's a whole nother thing. And I think there should be an extra penalty for something past 2 feet or 30 inches.
There is.
Because
There is.
it's significant.
Years ago, too, a lot of this stuff would go right to court. And a few years ago, we kind of reversed that out. We're just going the letters. So that's an option that we're not really tugging on right now, too. Sometimes people having to show up to court. So I think there's also some other strings to help us get there. But the two major goals in all of this is the reputation was city are jerks. They won't work with us. And the next one was, the next issue is the money that we're spending on this and trying to get it into control. So those are things we're trying to balance. It is a pendulum swing, going from one extreme to another. I think we're going to get to manage that. And ultimately, if commission
hope so.
wants to go back to a different direction, we'll do that within the budget process, because Amber gets a budget and she's not supposed to go over that. And so that's one of the things we were hitting into the last 2 years is that budget also is paying for demolishing houses, for taking care of trash in yards. And if you're spending an exorbitant amount on the grass, then you can't do as much as the others. So there is a balance in there. Again, commission gets to help dictate that within our budget process on where do you want to pull funds from and what do you want
Yeah.
to put into?
I know the past perception, but if your grass is 3 feet tall, you can't say the city's not working with me.
I see DJ in the code revitalization department out. I do see them. And it's not, I don't think it's a lack of that. It's just, we have to figure out a smoother process to make it look better as well as fit in the budget.
It's kind of hard to teach people to care,
Absolutely.
you know, because if they cared, they would mow their
Right.
yard.
Comment. Speaking of people that care, I'm kind of bummed out that Chris Weiner isn't here. I'm kind of bummed out that the new Parks Department head is not here. My family and I went out to summer celebration this weekend. We had a ball. It was a bit warm, but we got through it. And when we arrived, we noticed that there was a sinking of a water line to the point of one lady showed a photo where she was standing into it and it was well past her knee, approximately a foot wide and easily 2 or 3 feet deep. What I witnessed was Chris Weiner, his staff, they had a truck, they all had shovels. The department head from Parks was there, and they were making it safe for our citizens to be able to enjoy that event. Whether they were on the clock, off the clock, they noticed an issue. They isolated, they had it kind of roped off and coned off, so they had staff and or volunteers advising people to stay out of this particular area while they filled it in. And I just wanted to say that those people care. Those people saw a problem and they took upon themselves to fix the problem. I applaud that. Those are the types of things around our city that make us a little different than most. So most of them were in civilian clothes. They didn't have their orange stuff with a hard hat and whatever else on. So I'd imagine they might have even been there enjoying it with their family, and they saw something that needed to be done. And he says, "You guys go have a corn dog or something. We're going to go fix this, and we'll be right back." That was amazing to see. So I just wanted to give some kudos to that staff and all that were involved. That was amazing to see.
Thank you.
One more thing. Well, actually, I think I got two. Ran into a couple constituents, asked me to relay a message to you if you would answer some emails or something they've been trying to get hold of. The other one, I know I'm always the bad guy on the hospital. They say constituents I've been out and I seen somebody at the 4th of July celebration. And they said, how does the hospital have money to purchase the medicine shop but want sales tax revenue from the city taxpayers? If they got money to buy a for-profit business, how do they need taxpayer money on the sales tax question?
That's a valid question.
So I told them I would relay that message.
Do you want me to share that with the hospital, or are you? I mean,
That's just the questions that's coming to me.
yeah, I don't know that I have answers or the right answers for that particular question. I have seen some people on Facebook, talk about why is a subsidized organization buying for-profit businesses. I mean, they are a non-profit, if you will, but they are private. It's not a city hospital. And as I mentioned before, when I called the ambulance companies, Bartlesville and Tulsa, to talk about options of if the hospital could never do this, what would it take to get them to come do it? Both of them told me that they'd have to be subsidized to come to, our rural area to do that. Labette County subsidizes Labette Health. Independence is running it themselves. So I know there's a lot of questions out there about how they spend their money and with what. So I can't really speak to that from the idea of, well, they get government money, so they shouldn't buy a private business. Look, they are private. Some people don't know that they think they are a fully government hospital. They're not. Yes, for the last 20 years they've been getting that full sales tax. This year, commission chose to start by cutting that back, and I think that's the direction commission wants to continue to go. That can be looked at again in 10 years, and maybe then it goes to zero. But
Don't they have a new pharmacy inside the existing facility? Aren't we supposed to be going to a ribbon cutting or something along that lines?
Community RX, I
Mhm.
think.
yeah,
In the clinic?
Yeah, it's at the clinic.
Yeah.
So then there'll be another pharmacy down the street?
I am unsure. I don't know what the plans are. I've only heard about this through social media and people calling me about that. So yes, we give them money. We are subsidizing for EMS. I believe that. Well, I got to be careful there because there's some things I don't know. There's some things I can assume. But if for whatever reason the hospital could not do that, we would, generally speaking, pick that up just like Independence did, and it would cost us more money to both get that off the ground and to run it than it is today with the sales tax. So
You're talking about EMS, not the pharmacy.
EMS.
Thank you.
Yes. It kind of started from a sales tax question of whether they're getting this money. As far as what they're buying and how and why, I can't speak to any of that. But from the
Would it be possible to get somebody from that organization in here to explain that to us?
we can sure ask them.
Cool.
I guess it's probably more of the perception,
Yeah.
right? You're asking taxpayers for revenue on the sales tax, and then, 2 months later or a month later, you're out buying a pharmacy, right? So, I mean, I understand.
Well,
A second
we're
pharmacy.
doing that all over in town anyways. The amount of organizations we help subsidize to get things done. For example, getting people to build houses. They won't unless they're getting subsidies, and we're out actively giving those.
Well, there's no sales tax for those home builders.
Yeah,
There's a property tax
housing-
break and whatnot, I understand,
Yeah.
but there's no voted on sales tax
Yes.
for,
We have a housing sales tax.
that's voted on?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, those sales tax are voted on. The special ones are every 10 years. The street one just happened a year ago. So those are all voted on. And so, both from a budget standpoint, they vote you in to manage a budget, and we can go down a long list, and we can debate on which ones are more important or not. But again, what I'm talking about, where it's all coming back for me, and it's outside of the hospital, is the need for the city to have that sales tax as well. And so my worry in all of this is the view of whatever the personal opinions are in the hospital, that we might get a no vote, and then we're coming back to have even harder conversations ourselves. Is one of the reasons I push that, is the need that we have as a city as well to have that. Now, there are other options. If a sales tax fails, we go back and pay for a special election and try it again a different way. But yeah, I can't speak. I can just assume to what the hospital's doing. Of course, any of them are always welcome to come do presentations here. That'd be
Maybe if you
up to
could
them.
reach out to some of them for our next meeting, have them explain that.
I
But
will-
we don't want the ambulance under our wing. We want
I'm
them to take
I'm
it.
strictly talking about the pharmacy part.
I don't,
Yeah,
I'm not sure
I
they
will
have to
mention
come
that they are
explain it.
welcome to come.
No,
You
it's a
could-
private business.
you
They can do
could-
what they want.
but you're welcome to go to the hospital and ask them.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. That might
certainly.
be- Yeah. I got a few comments, questions.
Was that the last one? Did you have one more?
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to keep this brief, or you keep it brief. I just want a 30-second update on 8th Street project. How progress?
30-second update. I believe we expect them to be done by end of August. That's not, Jim or Thomas at home might be cringing on that, but I think that was their initial expected date. That's not the window they have, but they were making really good progress to get that done.
Just for the water line.
Just for the water line. Everybody will be really excited that gets done, and then we'll go start it all over again to redo the whole road. But the road actually should go, without weather issues, the road should go much quicker than this project.
But the road part will include having to repair some intersections outside the
The road will be shut down
width
for that.
and curbing and
Yeah, there'll be curbing, there'll be intersection, there'll be the full
Okay.
road. We'll have a lot of detours that will get, I think the word that Jim used when we were talking about the water line project was messy. This one will be messy too, but we'll have a new road without an aging
We'll
water
have a
line.
new, but we have other avenues to get through Coffeyville. That's not the only road through Coffeyville.
Yeah, it will be inconvenient for sure, especially around the school.
Okay.
As far as the businesses on 8th Street, they shouldn't, once they start the paving project, they shouldn't be out of business for more than a few hours, if I understand what Jim made mention. Do you still stand by that?
There will, if you recall the construction project we did on
Mm-hmm.
Walnut, Walnut, there's still access for businesses there. It's not optimal, concrete's gone, but there'll remain those type of accesses for businesses or homes on there. And we'll just have to work around, just like the ones around the hospital.
And business deliveries and things of that nature.
What we will do is we'll have we do this with our major construction projects. We'll have an open house. The engineer will be here. We'll have the maps up. We'll talk about the timelines, the impacts, let people, have that advance notice.
Thank you.
Next thing, the length of 11th Street or the highway from the Burgess River Bridge all the way out to the west side of town, there are some places that are not great. They need patching. I'm not talking major extensive repair, but just kind of,
Say again the location for me.
I mean, the whole length of 11th Street. You can, and then when you get east of the railroad bridge or the underpass, there are sections out there where, there was overlay of asphalt and that
It's come out.
half-inch layer's gone, and now you're down to concrete, and it's just kind of there and not there and there and not there. And I don't know if we have I know there's no money, but I know a plan maybe
You
to
said
do a
it.
little bit of
I mean,
patching
on the
of
west
what
side,
we can do.
on the west side, we do have that project. I don't know when, we have a date on that. I don't know if that was a grant. Amber, is that the Luark section? Yeah. So the west side does have a project.
Yeah.
That's not until 27. Currently, there are no other major projects on
Okay.
11th.
And I know
Point.
we're in mid-26, and I know we talked over it. Overlook's getting just worse
Yes.
and bad.
A lot of streets like that. But
Yeah.
yes, Overlook is very bad.
Question on, I don't even know how to talk about this, but abandoned houses.
Mhm.
How do you identify them? Are they identified?
Amber.
Come on back up here, Amber.
Short answer is yes.
Okay, good.
I mean, yes, the short answer is yes, they are identified. We are going through and completely overhauling our blight list because we have houses that have been blighted for 10 years and they weren't ever torn down. So we're starting the process over on those. So I expect to have an updated list for you guys pretty quickly.
And ones that can be saved, what can we do?
Well, it depends on what you mean by can be saved. I mean, you can look at a house from the outside and go, this is a great house, we can save it. But then you go on the inside and you're like, oh, maybe it's not the best house to save. We can
And every time
always,
I see abandoned house, like you said, the inside bad, it's not say, well, they just quit paying property tax on it, they walk away, eventually in 3 years, we're spending $6-7 to tear it down.
Yep.
Yep.
And there's hundreds like that. And the what can be done, you bump up against property owner rights. We've had residents come in here that those properties were abandoned, were also set on fire, and you saw some of the struggle of frustration of then tearing it down. So we can do within the boundaries of the law the best we can. We can tear down as fast as we have the funds to do that. We can actually get grants to tear down houses. We've looked at those grants too to tear down more. Right now, I think I mentioned the land bank, around 64 lots that we have. We're working on a plan to get those out. We don't want those. We want people to have them to go build. But the what we can do can be either limited or open on a variety of factors, from property rights to how much money we have to tear things down. The ordinances that say it can be blighted. Sometimes, some people we have living in homes that really, per our code, they shouldn't be in that home. You have that issue to address with. So code enforcement is neighborhood preservation, community development, our housing, so much bigger than just grass. And some of those issues, like tearing down, what was it in 24? I think we tore down 94 homes.
Yeah.
It's like $760,000 to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you have some of these that have been on there for 10 years. It was just never bad enough to make it to the top of the list.
Because
but bad
everything
enough
else,
to be
other
on
things
there.
got put ahead of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, you can't legislate caring.
I know. Okay, that's all.
All right, anything else? Okay, I'm going to move to adjourn, and then I will immediately open our work session. So I move to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Motion is made by Vice Mayor Maples, seconded by Commissioner Hendricks to adjourn. Can I see a show of hands? Thank you.
All right, and now I will call to order the work session for Tuesday, July 14th to discuss revenue neutral rate.
Yeah. Commissioner, as you know, with work sessions, there's no decisions that are made. It's more just conversation, discussion. So Marty's going to come up and talk a little bit about what is revenue neutral. To understand it is confusing. It confuses the public. And so he'll give us some details. We do have to submit notice to the county on an expectation. So I'll let Marty sort of take it from there and kind of talk about what is revenue neutral.
Okay. So I think the first thing is to just establish what the mill levy is. So mill levy is the essentially a taxing mechanism for the city to collect property tax within its jurisdiction. Okay. Revenue neutral is essentially the mill required to keep property taxes flat as compared to the previous year. Okay. So what can be confusing about that is when we talk about the actual mill itself. Someone says 25 mils or 35 mils or 40 mils or 15 mils. The problem is where it gets confusing is someone sees the mill change and they think their property tax has changed. It's a function of what the county has assessed the property in that jurisdiction to be. If they keep the property valuations the same from one year to another, then the mill levy, to maintain revenue neutral, the mill levy would be the same. For example, this year, they have raised the property value assessment, which they typically do most years. Not every year, but I think in recent years that's pretty much happened every year. Okay. In that case, revenue neutral, that mill rate to maintain revenue neutral actually decreases every year. Property tax value, the property taxes collected are the same, but we have to have a lower mill rate to offset the increase in property tax value. So that's where it gets really confusing. So sometimes we'll say, hey, we're going to cut the mill. That is not always necessarily equate one-to-one to how much we're cutting your property tax. So we could say, hey, we're going to raise the mill by so much. That's not a one-to-one raise on necessarily what we're going to be raising on your property tax. So it gets a little confusing, and so it's important that as we have these conversations internally and then go to articulate those outside, that we make sure we're very clear about what we're talking about, and that's part of why we wanted to have this conversation too. So the way it works is every year, I think it's on by the 20th of July, I have to submit a form to the county to let them know whether we are contemplating or intending to raise the mill. Whether we ultimately do or not, it's immaterial. Go ahead.
That you're gonna be past revenue neutral. That's what you have
Raise
to submit, right?
That's true. Excuse me. Raise the mill above revenue neutral. That's exactly what it is.
Well, put the mill at above revenue neutral.
If you're gonna do $1 more, you're
Exactly.
going over revenue
But
neutral.
you could have less of a mill and do that.
yeah, you could lower your mill all you want.
And
That- you
still
don't
be,
need
you could lower your mill and still be over the revenue neutral rate. which sounds counterintuitive, but that is possible.
Yeah, that's not the way it's going to work out this year, but
Okay.
yes. Yes, it could work out that way depending on how things went. No, but essentially the dilemma we've ran into this year is just because of scheduling conflicts and getting everybody's all lined up. Our first budget session isn't going to be until after that July 20th deadline. And so what we're trying to do here is we got to provide the county notice. Even if we just want the possibility of being able to manipulate that mill levy, we have to let them know. Because if I don't send them that notice and then, whoops,
I know,
hey,
it's not what we're gonna set it.
it's just giving ourselves the flexibility
It's really
to do that.
a flexibility fake number. I
Yeah.
mean, hypothetically, we could set the mill at
Wha-
100, and then later
Just not
come
do
in at
anything
the
at
end
all.
of the year, and we have it at
Yeah.
10.
Well, and you know, like
Yeah.
last year, the state statutes were such that if you did do that, it gave you more time to get your budget done. So just saying you were going to go over and even giving you more time to get your budgets accomplished could be a benefit.
And then later, you did not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, what happened with us last year? People saw that and go, oh, well, are they?
But quite frank, I don't even know the purpose of submitting this to the county by July 20th. What
That
purpose
is,
does
and
it serve?
I couldn't tell you. That is the deadline. That's what I know. I
Okay.
don't make the rules. I just make sure we keep them. So essentially, though, it's a little different conundrum this year, though. Last year, we would just do it whether we intended to raise the mill or not, just to give us that extra couple of months to work on our budget, which was what the state allowed. The state has changed the rule. Whether you're going to raise the mill or not, October 1st is your deadline for submitting your budget to the state. So the only thing that we're really running into is the fact that we're not going to have a chance to do our deep dive on some of these issues until after this initial deadline. To your point, Alec, it is cumbersome and it's causing it's just one more thing to give us heartburn while we're trying to go through the budget. So what essentially what we need to do is to kind of and I'll let Ben take over at that point and kind of walk you guys through that. But essentially what we need to do is to say, okay, what are we comfortable with telling the county, even if we don't want to do it ultimately? Because the way this works is whatever we tell the county now, say we want to give ourselves flexibility up to 30 mills. Because whatever I tell the county is the up to, it's kind of like an up to amount, that's as much as we can set it later on. So.
Right.
And if we want to say we're just going to raise it a half mil, well, then that's all we can raise it. So, but what happens is we've got some deadlines that come after this that are important to understand. So, essentially we have to set a revenue neutral hearing, okay, revenue neutral rate hearing or an R&R hearing. Now, typically we will do that the same night as the budget hearing. We'll open with the R&R hearing. We'll get a motion from the commission to approve exceeding the revenue neutral, or if we decide not to exceed it, no motion's required. It's dead. It's done. We move on with our lives. We close the hearing, and then we open the budget hearing, and then we'll go and present
Yeah.
the budget that we've worked on for the last several months, and the commission will then, hopefully by then we're all on the same page, and the commission will then approve the budget at that point, and then we close the budget hearing. That's over. But we have to have a 10-day minimum notice that we have to supply the public through our official publication, which is the Montgomery County Chronicle. I'm going to call it the Journal, but that's wrong publication. And because they only publish once a week, basically our deadline for getting all of this submitted and have all of this these deadlines buttoned up is basically the first week in September.
Okay.
So.
Do we want to make this easy? Okay.
Yes.
So typically, our property tax revenue coming in revenue neutral. I don't know why the state did that, but typically our costs go up to be fair to ourselves. Health insurance goes up, asphalt goes up, everything goes up. We give raises, we give salary raise, benefits increase. Typically, if you just did inflation, that's between 1% and 3%. So to be fair to ourselves, we could give ourselves a cushion of, even though we're not going to do it, say 5%. We're going to exceed revenue neutral by 5%. Whatever that mill is, say 28, and it's probably in our budget sessions going to end up being in the 25, 26, 27 range. Maybe less, we don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But
So-
we're probably not going to exceed
Yeah.
30.
You've
but-
got some math on what the mill is now versus versus
So-
27, and give them some of that.
Well, again, what I'm saying, it doesn't matter. We could set it to 30, and later through budget sessions, we're really going to set the mill at 24. This is just a silly
Yeah,
exercise.
this is just
With the
to
county.
say that, because as long as we don't exceed what we tell the county we
Yeah.
intend to do, we can go as low as we want to go after that, all the way to
But-
cutting the mill if we wanted to at that point.
There is a but in all of that. When you
Yeah.
say it doesn't matter, because you're right, but like the county just went through their exercise, right? They did it, it was 15% higher, because people don't understand the revenue neutral rate process. They are ticked and they show up demanding answers,
Okay.
and you're not even ready for the answers. So whatever you set, part of notifying the county is they notify the public that, and generally it's not
That's why it's
up to,
very-
it's the city is going to.
It's been confusing every year since this started, and it's not fair to the commission and the budget people and the city. But what we can say is, we just pick a number. We're not going to exceed.
Because this is
28.
just so preliminary.
Yeah,
this-
so
well,
preliminary.
This is very perfunctory in nature.
If
here,
you
yes.
sit down, for example, and decide that grass is the number one issue and we have to find ways to fund it and refuse is not enough, you could choose to fund it through property tax. So you do want to give yourself some room there within reason to be able to address that as we sit and talk about what the budget is. So Marty, would you go over the
Yeah,
current,
so
future?
As of this year, so we'll just look at 25, 26, or 26, 27. So in 2026, the revenue neutral rate was just over 25 mils, which for the general fund specifically, I'm not talking about library or anything else that gets their piece out of that. Just the general fund only, it's $1.27 million in revenue that we would derive from that. Because the property tax, because the property value assessment went up, revenue neutral has now gone down to 23.983 mils is what I was told in my notice from the county. Okay, that holds us at that $1.27 million rate. So, to Alex's point, you could go. You could say, we would like to. We intend to raise the mill up to 30 mils. Now, intent is the key word here. Intent just means that we're basically earmarking that. We're putting our foot in the door to allow us to do that if we want to. There is no rule that says we have to do that.
Because if we don't, we can't.
Yeah. In a perfect world, guys, where everything lines up and schedules are just the way you want them to be, we would have had this conversation like a week and a half ago already and would have had an answer, and I could have filed it with the county just as is. But as it stands, we just don't want us to go into our first couple of work sessions and we already chopped ourselves off at the feet, not having the ability to even play with that number to even understand what it could be.
Okay, so do we want to just say we might exceed revenue neutral by 5% or 10%?
So let's give you that
And then
number.
it'll be
Give them the
10%,
10%.
10% would be 27.5 mils.
And that 6 of that's the library.
Well, yeah. Part of that goes to the library.
So
yes.
the city part would be like, say, out of 27, 21 to the city, 6 to the library. But those go together in our case, those two things.
Yeah, they all come
Two
together.
entities.
So if I were,
Yeah.
you could, go ahead, Ben.
I was going to say, taking it to 27.5 is about a 10% increase. And that the dollar amount we're talking about is from the 1.273 million to 1.523. So we're talking 273, 3, 4, $250,000 that you have to play with by taking it to the 27.5, a 10% increase. That only gets you the $250,000 to decide.
Again, that's not what we're
increase.
setting, and that's a limit to ourselves.
Yes, that
We're
gives you a
limiting ourselves-
maximum
our
to play
maximum.
with. So if you want to just do 10%, you're playing with $250,000.
Our goal would to keep the mill close to the same as what we have now. Maybe a smidge up or lower, but
Again, there's no, whatever number we decide we're going to put on that form, we just can't go over that number. We can
okay.
go under that number all
I'm
day.
good with 27.5.
That's fine.
That's a 10%.
Yeah.
10%.
10% bump to the mill, not to property tax. Just making sure we understand that's what we're talking about.
Potential to the mill.
Potential, but unlikely.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
So that's gonna give an extra $250,000 then.
that you can play with in your budget
Yeah.
session.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
you choose to take that rate. If we follow the theme of the last 2 years, we're not going that high at all. We're keeping it even lower. So we have to talk about that budget session. But if not, you would be increasing property tax collectively by that 250 to then put that into the fund. Yes.
Yeah, so if that's the number we can work with, then I can go and we can add that in the form, and then we'll get that sent out. It doesn't require any official action by commission. That's one to have a work session, just because knowing very well that this ends up getting published by the county, and then you guys are gonna start getting questions like, is this really what's gonna happen? And then you guys at least
You
say.
cut our meals and now you're
Yeah.
raising it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and hypothetical, I want to run a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Let's say we tore down 50 houses this month. They're off the rolls by December. Then what? We have less total property value for next year?
Well, if we're
you're
tearing the
probably-
houses down, I
Or if
don't
a
think
major-
we're
We're not
lowering.
collecting from those houses probably anyway.
Well,
We're not getting any money
what
anyway.
I'm saying is even property valuation in the properties we have fluctuates by calendar year.
Yes,
Yes.
it does.
Yes,
It-
it does.
I get every year in June, I will get a notice from the county that tells us, here's what the county assessment is on your properties. Here is what your revenue neutral rate is per their calculation. Though my math doesn't always match their math. I got to go with their math. And then we go from there. And that's what we.
Did the
we come
county
in
give you the
budget.
total assessed valuation for Coffeyville
Yes, I don't have that
this
handy,
year?
but I've
Okay,
got that.
Get it, okay.
Yeah, we
Hey,
can.
Ben, what do you think we need?
That's a loaded question there. We need more revenue to do what the city and commissioners want us to do. So we cut out 1.5-ish million dollars in 25 of that revenue every year. And then we want to, demand a service, whatever it might be, in this case, grass, we do more with when we are already cutting. So here we were over on grass. We've cut out 1.5 million in revenue, and we want to keep going at that. So I'm trying to find ways to give you new revenue options. We'll be able to talk about data centers and if that can support revenue. We talk about the new construction and trying to incentivize the housing down here. Those can be revenues. We're taking on a portion of a sales tax. That can be revenue. So all those things can help. But if we push down all revenue and expect services to go up, it just
Well,
doesn't work
property
that way.
taxes are now a smaller part of the chunk of
And-
overall revenue, and so we're trying, we decided a couple years ago, we're trying to balance the needs of the city and keep property tax, overall tax payment lower, because that's one of the biggest complaints.
It's fun to tell people when I say, how much property tax do you think it makes up of our general
Very
fund
little.
budget? They're like, it's got to be 60 or 70%. No, of 12 million, it's 1.2 million dollars.
It's like 10%.
It's a very small
very
amount.
low.
So you do have
the
the
biggest
ability
complaint.
to increase property tax and eventually get back to where we're going. Now, part of the problem with that is the state legislature, right? They're trying to find ways, and one of the ways was, the 3%, the 10, the going to a vote of the people. So lots of options could be coming. So you may never get back to where you were. So at this point, we got to find other revenue sources to support, and that's difficult to do if we squash all those.
One of the reasons we tried to lower at least city's portion of the property taxes, the way things have been going the last 5 years, your house could be valued at $80,000 5 years ago, and now it's $160,000, and you're paying double the property tax, and you didn't do anything, and so we're trying to reduce that burden from the city standpoint on the citizens, and find revenue in other ways.
Yeah, and everybody's got the same. I sat there at the county, and the people that want it they're there to legitimately talk about their concern with property tax. Don't even realize they're doing it. There was a gentleman from Coffeyville there saying, "County, you've got to lower this tax. You got to lower this tax." Then he's talking about the condition of roads in Coffeyville and how poor they are, and so. The road doesn't get better by lowering that tax, lowering that revenue. But it's like we forget to put those two things together. We have to be taxed, whether it's income, sales, or property tax, to have the revenues to do these services.
And things have exacerbated that problem because concrete and asphalt have far exceeded
Everything.
inflation in the last 25 years.
We've had some mega inflation in the last several years. Like I said, when we were originally going into the water rate study, and I'm just kind of citing this, when I originally crunched the numbers for Tim when we had first started talking about this, the average rate of inflation in water over the last prior 12 years had been just over 8%. Not 3%, not 5%, 8%. So significantly higher than the normal basket of goods that we look at when we're talking about, like, the consumer price index. So because so much of what we do in this city is not regular consumer level consumption. It is industrial level consumption. It is more than even commercial level consumption, the types of things that we're doing. Asphalt, bulk chemical, things like that. We don't just buy a quarter-ton pickup because, I just need to throw a riding mower in the back of it and drive around and maybe some, throw a cool piece of trash in there. No, we have to have a half-ton or a three-quarter-ton. So because we've got to be able to pull a trailer. We've got to be able to do this. We've got to be able to do that. So your requirements are more. And so the inflation actually is heavier for an operation like a city's, in the same way it would be on a more industrial operation like a power plant or a refinery. Oh, by the way, we do have power plants, so there you go.
So what we're hearing from a consensus is kind of that 10%, which is a 27.5. That gives commission about $250,000 if you choose to add that to property tax. That's what that would mean. And again, it's not a will. You still have to have a hearing about that. People get to come talk to you about it. This is just setting the maximum.
It just gives us a cushion.
Can we, just for round numbers' sake, so I don't have to have like the whole splitting my hairs with the math of the county, can we just call it 28 just for the form? Is that
I'm
fine
fine.
with everybody?
That's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
works.
We're going to target 25-ish range, I think, probably
Yeah,
in the budget
I think that's
session.
good.
So
Yeah, and what we'll do in that budget session is open up, what does that mean? What's that total dollar value? How does that apply to what our budget's going to be? Now, this first session on the 29th, 5:30, we are going to, especially because we have 2 new commissioners who haven't gone through multiple of these budget sessions, we're going to start not by cracking open and looking line by line. We're going to talk high level. What are our revenues? What are our expenses? High-level general fund, high-level enterprise funds, what our debt service looks like, what does our cash position looks like. So we're not going to get into the weeds talking about grass quite yet. We're going to start with that high level. That just popped into my mind. I didn't know. But
making sure.
and it's going to be tall weeds too. But that's where we'll start that first conversation, so that we especially you 2 new ones, really have a picture of the high level before we start shrinking that in. So we'll have that 29th. We'll have that shortly after. We'll give you some of those line items. I want to show you some comparisons too. We had all the departments came in and submitted everything that they think they wanted, and it's here. And then we got the cut the bone is here, and probably realistic is somewhere in between. So we'll get into those conversations, but we'll start with that at high level.
In your workbooks, and everyone who's seen these before, it's going to be very similar to last year's workbooks. It'll be a line item workbook, and then we've really kind of tried to emphasize more on the comments, getting those from departments. And so where we have done initial cuts already, before we've even brought them to you guys, we've actually got comments where you'll see what those cuts were and by how much and where they had originally been. So at least you'll have an idea of what we've tried to do so far before coming to you. And then at that point, it's up to you guys to kind of help us set sort of these directional priorities, and then allows us to understand if we need to divert resources, efforts, whatever it will be. At that point, then we can make some more changes. And then that's why we have multiple work sessions, so that we can kind of iterate this budget process.
thank you.
Do I need to make a motion to adjourn? We're done.
No.
Okay, where's my sign-in sheet?
I have it right here.
Right here.
Perfect, thank you.
Mr. Kendall.
Yes, sir.
Answer your phone, he's texting you.
Hello?
It's about to blow your mind.
Uh-oh. Jim Oskison? I don't even know how to spell it.
You doing okay?
Hoskinson, maybe that's it. I'm sorry, I pronounced it wrong, I guess. It's kind of a hard one.
I know, it's a lot.
Melissa, could you pass on the kudos to the folks that I highlighted? I would be very much appreciative.
Okay, let me go sign my life away here.
You know how to spell that last name?
Okay, I do too, but let me go sign stuff.
But his
I know.
email comes across a
Yeah.
different name. So he's emailed me before.
Yeah,
I can probably pull up what the email is from my email.
Okay. I mean, it could have been, I seen him in the store, he could have just been talking.
Well, and a couple things happened too here, so we've updated our emails in the last 2
Yeah,
weeks.
yeah.
So we got.
Cause I'm working with my iPad without it, yeah.
And then, you know, look at right here, I'm at 237 unread.